into January? How are those New Year resolutions treating you so far? If you are anything like most people, even 2 weeks into a new year, you might find yourself losing traction on some of the goals that you set for yourself at the top of the year. And I don't think that this is a commentary on what a weak person you are. I think it's really just evidence that you, in fact, are a human being. So congratulations, you are human. And I am here to say, there's a better way. Hi, welcome to Kick-Ass Switch, putting the K in magic. I'm Joanna DeVoe, and you're watching my very first video of the new year, and my super sexy Princess Leia buns. And what I wanted to talk about today is very much in line with this whole theme I've got going on right now with the newsletter and the blog and my podcast, Hippie Witch, Magic for a New Age, and that is easing your way into the new year and making a more gradual transition. And the best way that I know for doing this is focusing on incremental change instead of like just big, huge, sweeping goals that are kind of out of your reach. Baby steps, baby steps. So way back in 2012, when Kick-Ass Switch was brand new, I did a video talking about this as it pertains to transitioning from the standard American diet and into a high-raw lifestyle, because I was into that at that time. But this is an analogy that I think works for most, if not all, areas of your life. And it's like a swimming pool metaphor. So have you ever jumped into an icy cold swimming pool? If you have, you probably got quite the shock and then climbed right back out and wrapped yourself in a towel, and that was the end of it. But if you want to like hang out in a swimming pool on a chilly day, or if the water's very cold, there's a better way to go about it, and you've probably done this too, and that is to just slowly ease your way down one step at a time in the shallow end. So first you just hang out on that top step, and you're only cold from the ankles down until from the ankles down you acclimate to the temperature of the water and you start to feel a little bit brave. So you take the next step, and then you're only cold from the knees down until from the knees down you acclimate to the temperature of the water. You take another step down and another step down in the same manner until finally you've completely acclimated to the temperature of the water and you're able to dive under the surface and swim around and have a good time. And I think that when you want to make really big changes in your life, that this is a great analogy to keep in mind, and that you are more likely to be successful if you ease your way into it instead of just trying to take it all on like one big gobble at a time. So for example, if you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to fit into your skinny jeans or wear a bikini, or you want to run a marathon, whatever it is, you could, if you're really out of shape, just start by taking your measurements once a week and writing them down. And then after a couple of weeks of this, you're like, I wonder if I could get those numbers to change. And so you take another step and maybe you swap out soda for water. And you just hang with those two things. You're writing down your measurements, you're drinking water instead of soda for a couple of weeks, and you start to notice the numbers change and you start to feel your energy increasing, and like you want to maybe start moving around. So the next step you take is you start going on a morning walk. So you just kind of hang out there for a while. You get into a routine of going on your morning walk until one day you're feeling so good, you've been watching the numbers change, you feel your energy increasing, you feel yourself getting into shape, that in the middle of your walk one day, you just like bust out into a jog. And sooner than you know it, you're actually running. And you're running every morning instead of walking every morning. And those measurements are really starting to change at this point. And that is a perfect example of what I mean by incremental change. This is something that's really great if you're feeling intimidated or out of your league by a particular change that you want to make or a dream that seems really out of reach. If you're someone who is really bad with money and you're intimidated just by the whole idea, you might start out just kind of how I was saying about people who want to lose weight, taking down their measurements. You might just simply start out by tracking your spending and just writing down what you're spending your money on. And then you might start to notice a pattern after a while that like, whoa, I spend a shit ton of money on Starbucks. So then you might be motivated to take the next step, and instead of buying Starbucks twice a day, you buy your own coffee beans from the grocery store and you start brewing your own coffee. And then after doing that for a while, you start to notice, hey, I'm actually saving money by doing this. And so the excitement and the momentum from that, this is so much to do with building momentum, has you looking for ways to invest that money that you used to spend at Starbucks. Maybe you choose to invest in Starbucks, in the corporation, instead of, you know, spending all your money there, or in a more ethical company if that's what interests you. But the point is, it's about making small incremental changes and building momentum and confidence as you go along. If this is something that interests you spiritually, if you're curious about like, what is this witchy business that I keep hearing this kooky lady talk about, or other people on the internet, or you're curious about paganism, I think that you can start small. It's a big, weird, complicated world if you go straight to the bookstore. There's like a million books, and that's typically honestly what I do. I'm a big book nerd and I love to read about things, but if you really want to experience this lifestyle on a spiritual level and get that connection going with the divine yourself, for me, one of the best things that you can do, or in my opinion, is to start small, to just take one step. So maybe that would be for 30 days. You go outside at night, every night at the same time in the same spot, and you track the moon. You notice the changing shape of the moon. You notice how it moves through the sky, the different times that it rises and sets, and just where it is standing at that same point at that same time, how it changes through an entire moon cycle. So maybe that's step one, and after doing that, you start to get this sense of like, ooh, there's a grander scheme to things and I'm a part of it. And you start to see how the cycles start to reflect your own life back at you. So maybe the next step is you decide to do that again for another month, but you start also going out in the morning time to do the same thing with the sun. And then you start noticing like, hey, the moon is out in the daytime too, sometimes. What I like to do on days like that is I like to drag this lawn chair out onto my front yard and read, because it's just really, or just sit there or meditate sometimes, just because it's super cool to have the sun on one side of me and the moon on the other side of me. It just feels really witchy and I love that. So after you've kind of gotten in tune with the sun and the moon, you might start thinking about, you know, just spending a year following the seasons, doing a Wheel of the Year program, or just simply following the seasons at home alone and keeping a journal. The first time that I did a formal, documented year-in-a-day program, I used 2 books. I used Christopher Pinzak's The Inner Temple of Witchcraft and Marion Green's A Witch Alone. They are both broken into 13 sections, so that's, you take a section for every moon cycle of the calendar year. And I just thought they worked really well together, because Christopher's book is focused more on the science of magic, and Marion Green's is more about connecting with nature. And those were things that, they were both equally important to me, so I did them at the same time. Before that, I just did what I just recommended. I just followed the seasons. I just followed the wheel, noted the changes of the wheel. I would read a lot about each Sabbat as it came up, and I enjoyed that so much that I ended up doing that formal year in a day. If you want to take it to the next step, if you want to do it with a group of people, you can join a program. I offer the Psycho-Spiritual Wheel of the Year. It's very different from other programs that do this because I wanted to create something that was non-denominational. So it's something that a Christian could do, or an atheist could do, or of course a witch or a pagan, because it's got a psycho-spiritual theme. And I talk about the ways that our psychology and our spirituality, the changes that we experience in that, and the different techniques we can use to create the kick-ass life of our dreams, how they kind of match and move in sync with the changing seasons and the turning wheel of the year. But if you can't afford something like that, or you want to do something more solitary, like I said, you can always just start where you are and do that like incremental thing where you just start with the moon, for example. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because the next module has a section in it about rituals and putting rituals into place in your life that I think really serve you well in terms of making incremental changes. And that is one of the most powerful things that I have ever done in my life. I used to be very hard on myself. I used to be very like all or nothing, and often the all would lead to the nothing and me quitting and giving up because I didn't get what I wanted fast enough. So this is one of the most exciting things, one of the best ways that I know for approaching creating conscious change in your life. Do it incrementally. Don't drive yourself nuts. Don't drive the people around you nuts. Just ease into it. Gradual transition. And I will be back here next Thursday talking at you, because this is going to be a regular series and I'm very excited. How do you like my new backdrop? Yay! Woo-hoo-hoo! Until we meet again, much love. Peace.